How to get a new birth certificate. In 1902, the United States Census Bureau standardized the registration of birth data, and all the states adopted the standard version of the birth certificate by the 1930s. Sometimes, an original birth certificate gets lost or stolen. All states allow citizens to obtain new copies of their birth certificates, or sometimes the birth certificates of family members, and the process is generally straightforward. Part 1: Preparing to order a new birth certificate. 1. Know where you or your family member was born. The federal government does not issue copies of birth certificates. You will need to request the certificate from the state of birth, not your current state of residence. Requirements for ordering and issuing a new birth certificate vary by state, so be sure to check before requesting. 2. Identify an acceptable reason. Some states will require you to indicate a specific reason for your request, and you may not be able to get a copy of your birth certificate, or a family member's, without providing a valid reason. Valid reasons may include passport applications, driver's licenses, a child's school registration, Social Security benefits requests, employment benefits requests, other personal identification needs, especially those of an official or legal nature. 3. Know whether you qualify to request another person's birth certificate. The Federal Freedom of Information Act and its corresponding state laws govern open records requests, but only apply to public records. Birth certificates are not considered public under these laws. As a result, you are only entitled to receive another person's birth certificate if you have a certain type of connection to the person whose birth certificate you are requesting. These may include yourself, provided you are over 18, spouse, parent, step-parent, sibling or half-sibling, son or step-son, daughter or step-daughter, grandparent, great-grandparent, power of attorney, legal representative. Note that this list varies by state. For example, in New York, you must have a court order to request a birth certificate as a spouse, child, or grandparent, but you do not need one as the individual named on the certificate or as a birth parent named on the certificate. 4. Check the cost. The cost for a new birth certificate varies by state. Basic fees for a single certified copy range from about $5 to $40. Additional fees may apply if you request more than one copy. You may have to pay the full fee twice, or you may receive a discount on the second copy, depending on state regulations. A processing fee between around $2 to $10 may apply for orders submitted online. Additional fees may also apply if you request an expedited service, special type of shipping and handling, or other special service. 5. Gather your identification documents. You may need to present one form of primary photo identification and two forms of secondary identification that show your name and address. Accepted forms of identification can vary by state. Primary identification may include driver's license, state-issued non-driver photo ID card, U.S. military-issued photo ID, passport. Secondary identification may include utility bills, telephone bills, recent letter from a government agency, government-issued employee ID badge, bankbook or checkbook, credit card or credit card statement, health insurance card, traffic ticket, recent lease. 6. Determine whether you need a certified or uncertified copy. A certified copy will have a raised state seal and the state registrar's signature. It may also be printed on security paper. Only a certified copy can serve as identification for legal purposes, such as obtaining a passport or driver's license. Uncertified copies do not suffice for these purposes, and their use is generally limited to personal records, such as genealogy projects. The restrictions for requesting an uncertified copy are usually more lax, and they may cost less to obtain than certified copies. In some states, this record is available to anyone who applies for it, regardless of that person's connection to the individuals listed on the certificate. Part 2: Making the request, in person. 1. Locate the nearest office for the birth state's Division of Vital Records. You can locate the address online through the CDC website or through a phone book. If you do not have access to a phone book or consistent access to the internet, you can contact the city government and ask for the necessary contact information. Offices for a state's division of vital records are usually scattered throughout the state, but you may have to visit the nearest big city in your state to find one. Worst case scenario, you will need to pay a visit to the state capital. 2. Present your identification. Check with the state's requirements concerning acceptable identification. Make sure that you have all the required identification on hand when you visit the office. Otherwise, your request may be denied. 3. Fill out the request form. The office should have vital records request forms on hand, including an application for birth certificate copies. Fill out the form in the office in plain sight of an office worker. Fill out the form completely and truthfully. If you do not know all of the information requested on the form, the office may still be willing to perform the search. Note, however, that searches with incomplete information may take longer and may not be successful. 4. Pay the required fee. Pay the fee by check or money order. Many states will also accept major credit cards. Some states will not accept cash. 5. Wait for your new birth certificate to arrive. The processing time can vary by state, but you can usually expect to receive the certificate in the mail within 10 to 12 weeks. Expedited requests may take as little as 2 weeks. Part 3. Making the request, mail or fax. 1. Find the address or fax number for the birth state's division of vital records. You can access the mailing address through a phone book or online. The fax number, when available, can usually be found online. If you cannot find the contact information on your own, ask the local government office for the address or fax address. Most city governments will have this information in their records. You will typically send your request to the main office, which is usually located in the state capital. Sometimes, however, you should direct your request to the nearest branch of the Vital Records office. Check with the state to determine the correct office to use. Most states will permit you to make requests by mail, but not all states will allow you to do so via fax. 2. Print and fill out the form. Access the form from the website for the state's division of vital records. Print out a hard copy and fill it out neatly using black ink. Fill out the form completely and accurately. Note that many states will permit you to leave some areas blank, but you must find out which areas are allowed to be blank and which are mandatory. If you do not have access to a printer, call the office for the state's division of vital records and ask for a form to be sent to your mailing address. 3. Copy your identification documents. Mail and fax requests must still be accompanied by all the required forms of identification. Make copies and attach them to your application. Make sure that the copies are clear and complete. 4. Include a notarized sworn statement if requested. Some states will require you to sign a sworn statement stating that the information and identification you submit is accurate. This statement must be signed in front of a notary public and bear the notary public's seal. You can usually find a notary public at a local bank branch, post office, law office, or city government office. A notary public may charge a small fee for his/her service. 5. Send in your request form, identification, and fee. Send a check or money order along with your request form, copied identification documents, and sworn statement. Do not send cash. Make a copy of your request form in case you need to resubmit it. 6. Wait. Processing time can vary depending on state, but your requested birth certificate should arrive in the mail within 10 to 12 weeks. Expedited requests may take as little as 2 weeks. Delays may occur if the information you provided is incomplete or inaccurate. Part 4. Making the request, online. 1. Find the website for the birth state's division of vital records. The CDC's website contains a list of these offices for every state and territory. This information can also be found by performing a simple internet search or through the state government's main website. If you have difficulty finding the right website, you can call the office's phone number and ask for the web address. 48 states, excluding Vermont and Wyoming, plus Washington, D.C., American Samoa, and Puerto Rico have outsourced the birth certificate ordering process to VitalCheck.com. You can order your birth certificate online from VitalCheck by filling out the online form and paying a service fee. 2. Access and fill out the form. The state office may have a downloadable form that you will need to fill out, save, and send to an email address. If not, it will have a live form that you can fill out and submit via a secure server on the website itself. If the form requires an actual signature, not a digital copy, you should download the form, print it, fill it out completely, including the signature, then scan it back into your computer and email it. Fill out the form completely and accurately. Required fields are usually indicated on the form. Make sure that all required fields are filled out, and fill out as many optional fields as possible. 3. Attach digital copies of your identification records. Scan copies of your required identification to attach to your request form. If sending the form via email, attach the digital identification documents as separate attachments. If sending the form via a secure server, upload the identification documents to the website using the on-screen instructions provided. 4. Pay by credit card. When making your request online, you will need to have a valid credit card in order to pay. You will not be permitted to mail your payment in separately. Some state websites may require you to use a credit card issued by a major credit card company. 5. Wait for your copy to arrive. The exact wait time may vary by state, but requests made online usually take significantly less time to process and be returned. Expect to see your new birth certificate within 1 or 2 months. The birth certificate will arrive by mail. Expect further delays if the information you provided is incomplete or inaccurate. Part 5. Making the request, Other countries. 1. Request a U.S. birth certificate for a citizen who was born abroad. If you, or a family member, were born in another country but qualify as a U.S. citizen, you can obtain a copy of the consular report of birth abroad from the Department of State. You can order a birth certificate by following the instructions located here. Only the individual, parent or guardian, an authorized government agency, or a person with written authorization can make the request. Obtain the FS 240 form from the State Department's website. You will need to fill out information such as the full birth name, date and place of birth, parents' information, and mailing address. The request form must be notarized. The State Department will not process forms that are not notarized. Mail the request form, a check or money order for the fee, currently $50, and a copy of your identification to the Department of State. You will receive the copy of the consular report of birth abroad by mail, or you may pay extra, currently $14.85, for overnight delivery. 2. Request a Canadian birth certificate. To request a Canadian birth certificate, you will need to locate the website for the province or territory in which the individual was born. You can usually request a birth certificate in person at a vital statistics office, online using a secure electronic ordering system, or by mail. Additional identification documents will be required, and restrictions do apply. You can usually order a new birth certificate if you are over 19 years of age and are the person listed on the certificate. You may also make the request as a legal guardian or parent of someone under the age of 19, or as a government officer. Processing fees do apply and vary by province and territory. 3. Request a United Kingdom birth certificate. The easiest way to apply for a copy of a UK birth certificate is through the General Registrar Office website. You can also apply by post or in person at the local register office. Certificates usually cost around £9.25, but priority service certificates cost around £23.40. You can call the General Registrar Office for additional information by calling 0300 123 1837. Note that this phone number is formatted for calls within the UK. You will need to provide details about the birth on the appropriate request form. You will also need to provide your own contact information. 4. Request an Australian birth certificate. You can apply for a birth certificate in person from a participating Australia Post outlet. You will need to provide at least 3 forms of identification with your application. You can request a birth certificate as the person named on the certificate or as that person's parent. Otherwise, you must provide proof of authority from the person named on the certificate. A solicitor or welfare group acting on that individual's behalf or that person's power of attorney may also apply. Standard cost is around $48, while urgent requests cost around $71. Tips. Each state may vary slightly regarding the requirements, procedures, fees, and processing time involved in getting a new birth certificate. For this reason, you should call the birth state's Division of Vital Records or access the division's website for more specific details. If you want a copy of a birth certificate for a deceased family member, you may have to provide a copy of the individual's death certificate, along with other necessary documentation. Remember that requests must be made to the state of birth, not the state of your current residence. Things. Acceptable identification documents. Credit card, check, or money order. Request form.